Hello everyone, welcome back. You're watching the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. And I wanted to make a video today, and I don't get to do this often because I don't have the opportunity to show you something that is out there in the vintage sewing machine world. Some of you have seen them, some of you have not. So I wanted to talk about that, and it relates to a video I've done in the recent past when I created a salvage yard series. Some of you will remember the Singer 66 that was frozen beyond belief, and I chose to salvage it for very precious parts, precious to me. And I have a number of bags that are labeled. I showed you how I do this. I label different parts to just a general. Sometimes I put them together, but they typically are in different areas of the machine. So it says clutch, knob, washer, and hand wheel. So the Singer 66 that I chose to salvage had a number of parts, and I believe I covered those in a video. And of course, this is the clutch knob and the clutch knob washer that goes with that machine, because you could, of course, wind a bobbin on that machine without having your needle create a mess. And it also had a hand wheel. Now, I don't really talk about hand wheels just unto themselves very often, but this is the hand wheel that came off of that Singer 66. That 66 model was circa, I believe it was made somewhere around 1920, 21, early 20s, I believe. And by the 20s, they may have had solid hand wheels, but one of the things, if you've never seen one of these before, this is a spoked hand wheel. And early sewing machines had these, and they are quite heavy, right? I mean, in fact, this will say, again, Semanco 151. Whoa, 16282, I believe is what I'm seeing here. And having a spoked hand wheel is a very useful thing, especially if you don't have a treadle table. So imagine, as I've described in past videos, I've talked about what it was like, what it could have been like theoretically, to go into a dealership of a sewing company, let's say Singer, for example, and you went in there and you were having to look at sewing machines. You knew they were expensive, but every home needed one, basically. And you start looking at machines, and you suddenly realize that all of those lovely, gorgeous tables, all that beautiful furniture that you can get for your sewing machine is extra. It is not included. What is included is a carry case. And of course, in the 1920s, you would have had wooden carry cases with those lovely bent wood arched covers that we've seen. You still see them, and some of them have survived shockingly in great condition in spite of the passage of time. But when you went into that store, you got a sewing machine and in a carry case. Well, if you were not willing to purchase a table, and remember, before electricity came into our lives and was widely adopted, most people, they didn't have electricity at home, even if they had it at work. And so what were they to do? Well, if you were willing to pony up, or if you already had a Singer sewing table, it was a treadle table with the giant pedal, the big pedal in the center underneath, and you would, of course, use your feet. It was human powered, and that was great. But what if you didn't have that? But what if you couldn't afford a table and you wanted a sewing machine in a case? Well, what good is a sewing machine in a case without a treadle table? Oh, well, they had thought of that. This spoked hand wheel that you see went to another piece of salvage, and I don't think I actually showed this in the salvage video because I had removed it and put it away and forgot all about it. And of course, this is what I'm referring to. For those of you who are new to vintage sewing machines, you may never have seen one of these before. This is not a feature that was unique to Singer. Let's move this out of the way. I want you to see the whole device here by itself. Many companies had these, and of course you want to sell a machine, they can't afford a table, they've got to have some way to put the machine in motion, and of course it was a hand crank. Now the hand crank, which I'm currently holding upside down, let's fix that. The hand crank for a sewing machine is a fascinating little device. If you look down here, you'll see there's a bracket and a place for a bolt, which I have. I have the bolt sitting right there. And I removed this from the 66, but I had removed it before I did all of that, all my attempts at soaking it, submerging the machine. I didn't leave this on there, and that's why I had forgotten to talk about it. So when you look at the machine, you're seeing a device that would have bolted onto the side of the machine, just the way a bracket with a motor bolts onto the right side of your classic sewing machines from that era. And then if you look at it in profile, you'll see that, oh, okay, and it has this it's kind of funny. It almost looks like it's hard to even say what it looks like. Almost like a little noisemaker. Those old, if you've ever seen a vintage noisemaker, people would use it Halloween and New Year's Eve. So you can see, and I'll show you sort of a close-up view if I can. I don't know if you guys can see this. If I can zoom in just a bit for you, you'll see that when it's turning, you see a gear, right? You see a gear here, and the gear is slightly wider than this piece here. And then coming in contact with this gear is another one. Make sure I'm going to be able to capture this. There we go. You guys see that when I turn it? You see this one, but there's a large gear, another round gear with teeth, and it is basically sitting inside. Right? If I turn this, see if I can. This is an awkward position. Forgive me. Well, as I turn this, and you see the small gear up there, look at the gear it's engaging with. You guys see that? Yeah, there's a very large gear inside this round housing. And so I took this and I just basically took my lint brush, I dusted it off. It had dust and crud on it. And then I went back with some sewing machine oil, and I'm going to do that. I use that to clean, and I actually experimented. I know that was kind of a high-risk move, but I experimented with my valve oil. And the valve oil that I've talked about in the past that you can get at a music store, it actually helped to clean some of the crud off. It didn't hurt the paint, thankfully. Now, these cranks were made over a series of many decades, and the later versions would have, or maybe they weren't later, but they would have decorative decals on the rim here that you see, and maybe some other places as well. This particular crank did not have any, so I didn't damage any decals. There were none. It didn't come with them, but I know that it is a genuine Singer part. This is not a reproduction. You can get reproductions of these, by the way, and they're all very pretty and shiny. This says Simanco 8435, and that's the product number. And whenever they would make changes, they would change, you may have one of these with a different number, and it either came before or after. So when I had been dating this particular one, this one was made somewhere around 1915 to 1920 or early 20s. And then, again, what is it? Basically, you have a rotating piece here, right? And what about this little piece up here? This piece up here is actually got a piece of rubber that's mounted onto this end. And I mean, it is in surprisingly decent shape to be. This is 100-year-old rubber, and I don't believe it's been replaced. I think it's still the original rubber. You can see the little dimples, the little dimple area there. And the way this works, of course, is when your hand wheel is installed on the drive shaft of the machine, right? You have your bracket, and then you have this piece, and this piece will engage with the hand wheel, This is a very awkward thing to try to hold, sorry. And then it actually turns the hand wheel itself, which is fascinating to me that it actually works. And it works well. Now, keep in mind, many people when they sew, they're used to having both of their hands free because you've got your foot is on a speed pedal or it's on a knee lever, and you're sewing. Well, if you're going to use a hand crank, you got one hand free because the other hand has to, or maybe you had someone helping. I don't know. But what this reminds me of is the fact that, I mean, this thing's over 100 years old. It's built like a tank, like everything, almost. It seems like everything was built like a tank. By the way, this crank is designed to come down. Okay, it swivels down, and then see if I get a better view of this for you guys. And then you push, and it locks into place, so it's not flopping around everywhere. And then when you pull it out, and I don't know if you guys can see it, there's a little pin here. Let's get a zoom. A little pin right there that helps snug this piece down, and then I can also pull it back out. It's, again, like everything else I have ever seen in the vintage sewing machine world, just about everything, it always humbles me to see how these things were produced. So I still have, there's still some grime here going on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take on the rest of the grime with just sewing machine oil. I had, again, the valve oil, which is essentially mineral oil, and a very small amount of weak solvent, if you will. That is something I'm going to, like I say, I used it to try to get the initial grime off. There was quite a lot on here, and I actually took some. This piece here was not black. It was this sort of nickel plated color, I guess, and it is. I was able to put some of that metal polish on it and get that done. But I actually, before I actually do any further cleaning, I thought, well, why don't I show you where this thing gets lubricated, because it has, of course, metal moving parts. So right here in this area, I took a syringe, my little grease, and I squirted here, and then I let it move around. You don't flood this with grease. This is not like a reservoir. You're not supposed to flood the whole thing with lots of grease, because remember, grease only, the purpose of the grease is so that the gears don't wear themselves out prematurely, right? As the gears come in contact with each other, that grease, and this feels so smooth now that I've put new grease in it. There really wasn't any grease left in there to speak of. It was whatever may have existed in there had already dried up. So, but now we need to oil the device. So where would that be? Where do we need oil? We need oil where there are moving parts. So this piece here is swiveling around this very large bolt, right? So I'm going to put some oil there, so that, again, it's moving fine. It's not like it's stuck or anything. But I thought, well, why don't we go ahead and give it give it some lubrication here, because it's not had any in a long time. Now, if you look here, you will see this piece. Remember, when the bracket is attached to the machine, this outer ring is like a big round frame, and it's not spinning. But let's see if we can hold this up in a way that you guys can see it. It's an odd thing to display. So as you're going around, notice that the centerpiece is turning. You can see the arm that engages with the hand wheel. You can see that it's spinning as well. And so I'm going to take some oil, and I'm going to put it basically right in that rim. It's almost hard to see. In fact, I can barely see it. obviously it's there because something's moving and something's not. So you know that there should be some kind of oil, some sort of lubrication is going to be necessary, right? But if you can't see it on the camera, don't feel bad because I actually am. I believe that these two pieces of steel meet underneath the lip on this rim. That's why it's not easy to spot. In any case, what else do I want to? I might want to lubricate here. Remember this is a pin that the lever itself turns on when you go to open it up or close it. And I think, well, it might welcome a little lubrication after God knows how long. It may not have been lubricated since it left the factory. As strange as that may sound, I think it's the case. All right. What do we have left? We can probably lubricate over here where the little pin is. Now, for the rest of the machine, that's about all there is to that. If you guys think I missed anything, please let me know. So what else am I going to do here? The main thing I want to do is, and I'm going to be extra gentle with my little rubber engagement piece there. You can see the oil. In this case, I am going to simply use sewing machine oil to shine this piece, and then I will buff it out. It's not going to be super glossy like it was when it was new, but this to me is more of a conservation thing. I'm not one of those, and many of you who know me and my channel know this. I have been known to do paint touch-up, paint spot repairs on machines, but I don't repaint. I don't strip machines. I don't repaint them. It's a lot of, I mean, I've seen some people do some incredible work on repaints. I think you have to give them, some of them, not all, are really good at, stripping machines and repainting them. The amount of labor that is needed is extensive, and people have different opinions. Some people say, well, I want a custom color, and if it's your machine and you want that, that's great. But for my purposes, I'm more about conservation of what is here. And again, yes, I will on occasion do, I'll do touch-ups, on paint, things like chip, where paint has chipped or something like that. And basically, as I go around here, you can see how much I have yet to get cleaned off here because it still comes off, right? It's still, I'm still getting soiling on the cotton swabs, and that tells me, okay, well, I'm not done. Not finished here. It can use more cleaning. And again, I'm not bothered by the fact that there are areas. This actually has a decent amount of its original paint finish left. If you go online, you'll see some of them look, they've lost a lot of paint. These were not devices that were particularly, collectible or valuable for a long time. They are now. If you go into places like eBay, you may be in for a surprise if you look at the prices of original Singer, not the reproductions, but original Singer hand cranks, and you will see that they are very precious today. I don't know that they're rare. I really don't know. I don't know how many survived. Because remember, when electrification came to sewing machines, it was like, oh, well, who needs that old crank? I've got electric power. And so some of these were kept by people, and people says, well, you never know, right? And thankfully they did, or we wouldn't even have any of these things. They'd all be gone into either a recycling pile, or if not a recycling pile, they would end up in a dump somewhere. I really don't want to think about how many incredible sewing machines went to the landfill over the years when people didn't really appreciate them like they do now. In any case, we still have plenty to preserve, lots to do. And what you may or may not realize, unless you've seen me do this or if you've done it yourself, is that when you go to when you're applying sewing machine oil to something, you're basically first of all, the oil should not hurt the paint because, I mean, the fact is, the engineers knew that sewing machines would get oil on them. So the paint is not really harmed at all by the oil. And you can see I'm still pulling up old grit. And the oil can also bring back a little bit of the shine of a dull paint finish. It's not the same as when it was new, of course, but again, that's fine. I will actually, you can let the oil sit there if you want for a little bit. It won't hurt anything. I should mention, do not get oil on the rubber. Rubber is interesting. The fact that this rubber has survived this long is shocking to me. And yes, I'm not exaggerating. The quality of the rubber that is used very often in many items today is not the same. And the reason for that is not, they still have rubber trees, but the way they produce the rubber is like so many other things, it's cheaper. And this is actually shown up in the automotive world with replacement parts. I hear people who service cars, they say that, they use cheaper rubber. Why? Because it's cheaper. That's just, it's, when you sit down and think, well, how many things have the manufacturers cheapened over the years? And it might surprise us to learn just how much of that has happened. So again, I do not want, now if you get oil on the rubber, you can clean it off. You can clean it off with some water. Do not put alcohol or any solvent or any penetrant of any kind on rubber. The rubber is very vulnerable to, it just is. It's vulnerable to chemicals generally, and just the ozone in the air over time can really do a number on it. But this rubber is still soft. It's not crumbling. I'm just like, wow. Now, if you've had an old device like this and you found that the rubber was ruined, chances are either the rubber got damaged when it was used, or more likely it was exposed to something that caused its degradation. Sunlight will do it. But, what am I doing? What am I trying to accomplish here? I'm basically going to, the oil will fill in some of the pores of the paint, right? And then when I take something to go and buff it, it's not, it will still have a nice low sheen to it, right? It has sort of like a semi-gloss sheen. It's not as shiny as the very deep lacquer-like sheen that you see on when the machines or the device like this was new, but that's okay, right? I'm not disappointed that I can't bring it back to absolutely perfect mint. That's all right. There are people who can do that and who do that. I find that the labor, which is pretty extensive, that I invest in the machines is to get them running, because I want them in the hands of people who will use them. Machines get taken care of, and they are happiest when they are used. And that's been my approach for quite some time. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of paint loss here. You can see right on the rim there. I've seen some online for sale that are a lot worse. And I just did a quick look on eBay. And in Canadian dollars, they're going for, anywhere from 150 to 200 plus dollars Canadian for an original vintage sewing machine hand crank. You just don't see that very often, and certainly not on this channel, because I don't come across them very often. And as I continue to do just the little sewing machine buffing here, and you can still see I'm still pulling dirt. It's amazing how much filth a paint finish can hold. But that is arguably one of the most valuable things to come from this Salvage Yard series. I saw this and thought, well, of course I'm going to save this. Now, what can I do with it? I can find a machine that doesn't have a motor. This came off of a 66, and it should fit any machine that the 66 hand wheel will fit on. The hand wheels came in a different sizes, different specifications for the drive shaft hole in the center of the hand wheel. So there are a number of vintage Singers, but not all of them, that this one will fit. And I could do that. I have found, though, that for people who like hand cranks, I may choose to see if I can find a new owner for this with just the crank, because there are people who, they don't need another machine, they just want the crank. Most of the people who get machines from me are either Treadle people, or really the vast majority of them are people who like to sew with electric motors. I don't blame them. But it has survived quite a long time, 100 years, and it still wants to work. It never ceases to amaze me and humble me every time I find something from the vintage world that is still ready to go, ready to work. It just needs some maintenance, and then I go into any big box store, take your pick, and I know that almost everything in there is disposable. It's a sad and pathetic thing, but those of us who collect and tinker on vintage, we're not sad, because we've got some really incredible things that we can restore, bring back, and introduce to maybe a new generation of consumers who aren't even aware that consumer items can last. And in case any of you were wondering, you're right. I'm gonna coat this as well. And actually, I took some of my metal polish to this because there was some corrosion on it, but it has since cleaned up. I think cleaned up fairly beautifully. And for those of you who have a machine or whatever you have that's associated with your vintage sewing machine, you can always use sewing machine oil to come in, and if you don't have metal polish, I like metal polish because metal polish typically does not attract dust like oil will, but you can always use oil, and then again, you buff it. I just buffed it with this little cotton swab here. And don't forget, your bolt. Make sure your bolt has been cleaned of any corrosion, because you're definitely going to need that. And we will see if someone would like to be the proud owner of an incredible piece of engineering that, people maybe have scoffed at or made fun of after the advent of electricity. But I have to tell you that, the way our ancestors approached consumer items, it's not that, and they were not cheap. Oh my gosh, they were not. But they were doable very often with financing, and they lasted so long. We're looking at generations here, and this device is not anywhere close to being worn out. So I hope that this was a useful video for you. I don't get to make a video like this very often, and if you found it helpful or anything on this channel, please feel free to donate to my efforts. You can support the channel at my Buy Me a Coffee links. Every video has one. It takes you right to my own Buy Me a Coffee page, and you can donate at any level you wish. And if you have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And we will see you next time.